K is here. GQ magazine calls him America's undisputed king of comedy. The New York Times says he is a performer of the moment whose moment keeps getting bigger and bigger. In 2010, he created the comedy series Louie. It revolves around a single father of two who struggles to balance his comedy career with being a single dad. It recently returned to FX after a 19-month hiatus. Here is the teaser for the new season.
You won't admit you love me, and so how am I ever to know? You always tell me, perhaps, perhaps, perhaps.
The all-new season of Louie on FX.
Not only do they talk about you being the undisputed king of comedy, and people love this show, there are these, I mean, yours is deeper and broader. Comparisons to Lenny Bruce, comparisons to Bob Dylan, comparisons to being a sort of philosopher king.
Jesus.
Do you want to not talk about that because it should be... Where does it come from, and how do you see what you are?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just a comedian, you know. I think that's the bedrock of what I am. I do a lot of other things. Yeah. You know, I have a TV show, and I have, I act a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm a dad and I'm a comic. That's really mostly what I am. So anything beyond that, I always get a little uncomfortable. I'm good at writing and directing and stuff. I'm good at that stuff. But I think
you were doing that before you...
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while. Yeah, I love doing those things. I always feel like I'm trying those things, though, even if I'm always feel like I'm just trying that.
But it takes a while to make a comedian, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes a long, long time. I mean, to make a really thoroughly good, you know, a ripe, baked, ready for, you know, ready to pull the bottle out of the keg.
Time or whatever.
Yeah, ready to really actually look at from all angles.
What does it take? Living.
Yeah, you know, it takes understanding life through living it, and then being on stage an awful lot and not giving up. That's all. It's just, you know.
And being prepared to fail.
Oh, yeah. That's really the road. The failure is the road to being a great comic, I think. So if you always kind of back away from the tough things and find easy routes, you'll do okay.
So failure is what? Not being funny?
Yeah, well, not succeeding in the moment.
So maybe being funny, but nobody got it or something.
Right. If you don't get a laugh, or you have a bad show, or you're starting to feel a little uncomfortable. There's a comfort factor that feels real good, and it's nice to wear it once in a while. But when you stray off the road, you know, it's like if you're on a vacation and you're seeing everything that was sort of laid out for you where everybody else has been. But if you take a road off to the side and you feel a little uncomfortable all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Yeah. There's no obvious tourist things, but you're learning an awful lot all of a sudden.
But failure has been a subject of yours too. I mean, not just that failure shapes you, but you talk about failure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing because most people avoid it. So if you can get to a place where you kind of like it, you know, I mean, you like what you get out of it, then it's new territory, you know.
What do you learn as a comedian in that 25 years? You actually cited 25 years. It takes 25 years to make a comedian. What is it you learn? You learn presence. You learn a oneness with an audience.
Yeah.
You learn a sense of who you are and what your own strengths are. But those are obvious to me, and I'm not a comedian.
Yeah, those come pretty quickly, I think. Like a stage presence comes pretty quickly, depending on who you are. How to write jokes and how to generate material and know it's going to work, that sort of comes, you know, first 10 years you're building the skills.
Yeah.
The basic
but the skills are what? Timing, delivery?
Yeah, timing and delivery and material, you know.
Material that works.
Generating the jokes, because most comedians, you know, you write your own stuff, you come up with your own thing. Connecting with an audience, and then there's all sorts of other things that happen. You know, your best show keeps getting higher and higher. That's the first thing. How good you can do keeps increasing, but then the really important thing is how bad your worst show starts coming up. I think that's for any performer. You know, your worst show needs to come up close to the best show, so that even on your worst night, you still.
Okay, so in the new season, your best show. The worst show should be much closer to the best show.
The margin should be like that. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So,
Now, how does that happen?
Well, experience. It's just experience. Yeah. It's just you know, there's hardly any situation that I haven't seen. So, You know, when I feel an audience, you know, you get an instinct for things.
But did you have the power of observation always? You just had to learn how to shape it and form it. I mean, to see life with a comedic eye.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just the way I look at things. And I'm very curious, so I like to look at a lot of things. So I'm always out there looking at life and thinking about it. So I guess that's just observation. But it's being able to have people understand an observation, even if it's really from a strange place or even if it's very personal. So I guess the thing is, once you get really good at the skills and your bottom comes up, you're able to go try stuff that's probably not going to work. And that's where you find, that's where you get better and more interesting. When you're, you know, the good comics do that anyway.
To read about you is to know that nothing, even close, is as important as your children.
Yeah, easily. Being a dad that's the most important job.
And what do they think of the comedy? Did they love it? Did they say,
yeah,
it's not me, Dad, it's funny how you use us, but it's not me?
Well, the stand-up that I do, I've changed the way I talk about my kids just because I like sharing my stand-up with my kids. I like showing them what I do. Yeah. And, you know, the first time I ever showed my oldest daughter a bit I used to do about hide and seek, playing hide and seek.
Yes, tell me that story.
With her, and it was about getting really frustrated that she would hide it in plain sight, literally, and I would have to pretend she wasn't, that she was hiding better. And on stage, I would say what BS this was because she's, you know, I mean, I have to pretend she's good, and I would rail about it and get angry. And I showed this to her when she was, I don't know, 6, and she laughed a lot because her younger sister. It was like that now. Like she was having to patronize her younger sister.
Oh, I see. She was doing the same thing.
So she's like,
to her sister, you were doing
yeah,
to
she's
her.
like, I know exactly how you feel. And she was able to make that connection. And she also thought it was funny that I got so upset. She knew it was funny because in real life at home, I'm not like that. You know, I mean, I get upset like any parent does, but not unreasonably. So she thought, you know, she knew.
But would she say to her friends, I have the funniest dad in the world? He's the funniest man to be around.
Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, what I hope is that her thoughts about me are as a father.
As a loving father.
I'm there for her when she gets off the bus from school. I'm there for her. I take her home. I cook her dinner. We do her homework together, and her sister, same thing. You know, so I take care of them. To me, that's what I want them to remember. I think
of course
the work is like something that hopefully when they're like 18, 19, they'll Google me and go, wow, this guy did a bunch of stuff while he was doing that, you know. It's not important to me that I like to model for them a good life in my career as far as, you know, trying really hard and being responsible. I tell them when something big is at stake and when it doesn't go well or when it does. I tell them that stuff as a role model, you know. But I could be doing the same thing if I was working at some company making widgets or something, you know.
What interests me about you, too, is you seem to be fascinated by how show business works.
Yeah.
I mean, not only a student, but understanding the business model, understanding, you know, I mean, there was a story I read about you once, understanding that how much you would charge for a night to a venue would affect what they did and ticket prices, because they had to suffer if they had not enough people there, didn't fill it up.
Right.
They had to have charged tickets as a kind of safety valve.
Yeah, when you go work at a theater as a comic or as a musician or whatever, you know, you try to get a big guarantee. That's sort of the conventional thing. Right. You get a bunch of money up front, and what that means is that whether the show goes well or not, you get to keep all that money. That's asking a lot, you know. So in order to hedge against that and make that not such a big risk, the venue needs to spend a lot of money on advertising,
promotion,
and they need to charge a lot of money for the ticket, so that anybody that does buy tickets, they get a quicker, you know. So in the end, you end up making less money. If the place is sold out, your guarantee will have caused so much money to be spent, because once the place is sold out, you divide the profits with the promoter, that you both don't make that much money, and the audience pays a lot of money for tickets. But if you're willing to, I started to say, let's not have a guarantee. Let's just both do our best, and then we could ask them to keep the advertising budget lower.
We
which
both have an investment in this.
Yeah, and then also I wanted the fans to not. I didn't want it to be difficult to come see me. I get really sick physically when I see that like a ticket of mine costs like $75. That's just too much money. So,
but I mean, also, I mean, you did an amazing thing to me in a way, and I certainly identified with it when you put the thing on your website.
Yeah.
And you said I'm going to charge you $5.
Right.
You know, and I hope you won't pirate it.
Yeah, please don't steal it. Right.
Pay $5. I hope you enjoy it, but don't steal it.
Right.
And amazingly, I mean, David Carr wrote a piece about this, as you know.
Yeah.
In the New York Times.
Yeah, I talked to him. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, it did.
And it just says something very, very good.
Well, the thing is, I kind of closed the gap. I also made the website very easy to use.
Yeah.
So I closed the gap between how easy it was to steal it and how easy it was to just buy it.
Yes.
And so, you know, it was just so much, because you could go to my site, and the $5 purchase was such a little bump in the road. It was almost like a viral video. Like, just click on this and watch it, but take 1 second, give us $5, and then you're over. That was actually easier, I think, for most people than to go to some pirate site and find a way to torrent it. So, you know, I think a lot of companies make it really tough for people to get stuff. And once something exists, if people can't buy it, they'll take it on the internet. They feel entitled to everything that's on the internet. So, you know, a lot of these companies, they put stuff out in stages, or they say you can only have it for 1 minute and we're going to take it back.
Right.
You know, when I went to Australia the first time, they were watching my show, and it wasn't on TV there, and it wasn't on iTunes or Netflix. They were all
on the internet.
Yeah, but regular people, not like crazy nerds, like regular family folks.
They had all what?
They all stole it. They all downloaded it.
Yeah.
Because we're not letting them watch it. We're not even giving them the opportunity.
Yeah.
And they all told me, if your show was available, we would buy it. But it's not. And the whole world knows about it, but us, it doesn't seem fair, so they just take it.
Yeah. What's your relationship to other comedians? Do you watch them? Do you learn from them? Do you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm always a student of comedy. I really love watching any comedian. I'll watch any comedian and just hear you know, it's like studying the ocean or the waves.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more than it's interesting to me because I mean I'm fascinated by watching painters. Have told me they go to the museum and they just look at it more clinically.
Yeah. You study it.
You're studying it.
Yeah, sure.
You're saying.
That's how he did that.
Color,
I see that.
Strokes. Yeah. Look at that.
That's right.
And you do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to go out to. I mean, if I have time to go, like if I get a babysitter and run to a club to do a set, I might watch the guy before me, but then I got to go home. So I don't get to do that like I used to. When I started, I just devoured comedy. I went to clubs every night, even if I wasn't. I'd be on stage maybe twice a week, but I was at clubs 7 nights a week. Yeah. I'd watch every comedian I could, good or bad, friend or foe, didn't matter. I just watched and just loaded it into my system as.
I'm the same way about interview. You know, I mean, just see how they do it. Are they doing? If you're in London, watch everybody you can see.
Right.
Are they doing it differently? Is there a style that's interesting?
Yeah.
Because in the end, you have to be yourself. You have to find your own sense. But there's always something to learn about the approach that somebody makes. Whether it's a baseball player watching another baseball player.
Right, because a baseball player is watching another player, but he's watching baseball. He's watching this. They're all doing the same game, you know? So the game is... So the same in stand-up, whatever the comic is doing is not in a vacuum. You're watching stand-up happen. You're watching how audiences are reacting. And the audience is such a mysterious animal to us, you know? So you're always kept guessing. There's some nights you go to a club and you're like... You know, I feel good. I'm ready to have a good show. But the audience has a strange, unanimous, grumpy feeling to them or something. And how did all these people, they're all strangers to each other, but they're all sitting there, we hate this show. Like, how is this happening?
How is that some common response?
Yeah, so I'll never see enough shows to go, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
You know? So it's an unquenchable thirst.
You like Chris Rock?
Yeah, he's a great guy. And we're very similar, you know. We grew up around the same time.
Yeah.
We had, you know, we were both listening to, you know, Van Halen and Led Zeppelin in two different worlds, but in the same East Coast feeling. And we always knew each other coming up. But then then he gave me a great job working for him. You know, I remember I was writing for his show, and we're all winning Emmys. Everybody's happy. And one day I'm next to him in his monologue mark during rehearsal, and he turned to me and he said, when are you going to direct? When are you going to get out there and do your own thing? Yeah. He said, you know, I'm happy to have you here. It's like I have a minor league team and Barry Bonds is hitting home runs every day. But at some point you have to look at Barry Bonds and say, you got to get out of here. Like he was benefiting from my work, but he wanted me out. on my
It
own.
shows a good instinct in him.
Yeah, he's always been like a big brother and a little brother to me at the same time.